blue card is turned in after the start of open session, the speaker will have the opportunity to speak during any other public communications to the Board of Trustees later in the meeting if the speaker wishes to address the Board of Trustees on an item on the agenda. Time will be provided at the commencement of that item. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Clerk, trustee, clerk, wait, these years.
We do. We have two. They are John Briscoe and James Ball.
I'm here tonight to invoke. If you would bow your heads or prepare yourself as is your custom. God, please grant us your joy, your guidance, and good wisdom as we deliberate on behalf of our school district residents. Amen.
James Ball.
I'm James Ball. I'm here to talk about the state assessment updates. Got all the data here for the last 2 years. On October 16th.
Mr. Ball, could you just bring that microphone a little bit closer?
I want to hear reducing morsel.
There we go. Thanks, sir. Is it on?
Yeah,
it's on.
I think it's on. Okay, on October. Did we set time for that?
Yeah, if you could reset the time, that'd be great. Thank you.
On October 2016, while introducing this agenda item, Gina said, and I quote from the audio tape, the state assessment update, pretty excited about this. Test scores, things are looking good. Almost half our students didn't meet the state assessment standards for math, the minimum scores. But the English learners did far worse. For example, only about 10% of the English learners, 6th graders, met those standards. And things are looking good, right, Gina? Well, she blusters, we beat the state and county averages. That's like a patient with stage 3 cancer saying, yeah, but look over there, those people have stage 4. Continuing with this analogy, we need to expect cancer-free. Do you think any parent wants to hear their son and daughter didn't meet the minimum state math standards? Let alone almost half our district? The soft bigotry of low expectations. Jaime Escalante taught AP Calculus at Garfield High School in East LA. The administration there had your kind of expectations. When most of his class passed the AP Calculus test, they accused him of cheating. They humiliated the students and they denied their AP credit. Jamie had the class retested, this time with honest administrative oversight. And guess what? The students scored even higher. Jaime went on to be one of the few educators honored on first class postage stamp. In a movie, Academy Award nominated movie, honored his achievements, Stand and Deliver. And later, a year later, the state assessment updates were equally disappointing. The average 50 to 60% met the state minimum. Again, only 10% of our English learners grades met the standards. No one improved. Things are looking good. Or are you still showing your bigotry of soft expectations? If you spend less time being politically gadfly and more on solving student problems, maybe our kids would score higher, particularly the English learners. And finally, speaking of bigotry, it's come to my attention that one of you has been active in La Raza. Finally, when 4 of you did grace a horrific beatdown, I want each of you to know I'd like you to leave the board.
Trustee Souders?
Yes, ma'am.
Point of clarification. I believe that when speakers come to the microphone, they should be addressing the board as a whole.
I research that, I'll get back to you. I have the board bylaws in front of me. I believe you could be correct on that. You are the parliamentarian. Would you like to do a little research into that?
I will do that, thank you.
All right, thank you. Trustee Briscoe?
As a point of parliamentary procedure, then you would prefer to see commentary that's invective against an individual would be stated as, Mr. President, it's my opinion that Trustee Clayton Tarvin, blah, 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 like that. Is that what you have in mind, Trustee Clayton Tarvin?
I would believe that based on some other, watching some other collective governance bodies that I have seen, that when speakers come to speak, they're addressing the board as a whole.
Trustee Briscoe?
It's a novel point. If the comment and statement were posited as addressing the president, then that would be sufficient for me.
Okay. Will you do some research on that, Secretary?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. That brings us to Kate.
While we're doing the research, I would like to find out what the enforcement of that is, if there is such a thing. What is the enforcement? Thank you.
K, communications. K1, written communications to the board. Superintendent?
Yes, you have a packet with 6 communications, one April 24th from Mary Ann Martin, April 25th from Chris Epting, April 25th from Cheryl De La Vega, April 25th from Debbie Gallagher Wilder, April 28th, another from Chris Epting, and May 1st, Denise Kavanaugh. The copies can be made available at the desk up here.
Thank you. K2, board committee reports.
We have no reports.
K3, trustees communications. Trustee Westphal, why don't you start us out?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to start off by reading our mission statement and our vision statement so this board stays on track. Our mission statement: the reason we exist. We hold high expectations for all students through rigorous and relevant educational experiences that support and guide them to become responsible, ethical, productive, and involved citizens. Our vision statement is the direction that drives us. We are committed to ensuring a dynamic and collaborative learning community that prepares all students each and every day for lifelong success. I'd like to read that before I do my package each week. I'm sorry to say that we need to, in my opinion, get this district back on track and focusing on kids instead of the turmoil and all these superfluous issues that get brought up because of social media and lies and deceit that get passed around this district, and it just causes nothing but trouble. And I think we're observing that lately. I'm speaking of the last meeting to bring to this board's attention, and Trustees, President Souders, I sent an email to you and I asked for a response back on this, and I never did get one. So I'm just going to go ahead and read off some of the things, in my opinion, that happened in the last meeting that are not kosher at all. In my opinion, we violated board bylaw BB 93-2311. We violated board bylaw BB 9005-8. We violated board bylaw BB 9005-5. We violated board bylaw 9323-11 and government code 54957.9. We violated board bylaw 9121-5. And in my opinion, one Brown Act violation. So this is a reoccurring thing that's happening in this board over and over and over. We keep violating rules and we just don't pay attention to anything and just make things up as we go along, and this has to end. We can't have lawlessness, and that's what we have. It's come to my attention that Trustee Tarvin has her website up, and it's saying that she still is the president on many locations in her site in violation of board bylaw 9010. And I got a good feeling the grand jury is going to be investigating this district for all these improprieties that I see going on. I hope we can get it together. The grand jury has also given us a report for Safer Schools. We say that we're doing a great job with Safer Schools. I have difficulty with safety. It's hard to take it seriously when we have people parking back here behind our district office up on the asphalt where they're not supposed to be. You know, if we can keep these cars from harming or injuring one child, it's really worth it. So I would like to see us quit parking back here and encouraging others, because the community's parking back here now. and it's dangerous for our children.
Thank you. Your time's up.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Trustee Clayton Jarvis?
Oh, good evening. So unfortunate to hear so many negative things about our wonderful school district. I want to tell you about some positive things. Our board is really proud of the work that we do in our entire district. And you know what? We have faith in our superintendent. And superintendent, I'm just so sorry that one of our board members perpetually attacks you. I want to apologize on behalf of the board majority. We think you're doing a great job. We're proud of you, and we're proud of the growth and accomplishments of the past few years. And our superintendent and our board majority, minus one trustee, work effectively together as a strong governance team. In the past year, we've created a board governance handbook to set clear guidelines of how to work together. Did you know that Circleview and Starview were awarded the California Distinguished Schools Award? They're the only elementary schools in Huntington Beach and in Midway City to receive the award. Can you imagine? It's so great that Ocean View has done such great things that we're the only school district in Huntington Beach. There were 247 named statewide schools named statewide with approximately 6,000 elementary schools, and we were the only one in Huntington Beach. And you know, the other things that we've had recognized leaders in the Ocean View School District for the AXA Awards. Just last night, our Deputy Superintendent received Administrator of the Year for Business Services, Business Administrator of the Year, and Mr. Avila, Negotiator of the Year. Congratulations to both of you. And our middle school principal, Bill Lynch from Marine View, Administrator of the Year. 2018 Partners in Excellence with the Assistant League of Huntington Beach. Can you imagine? These are such wonderful things. Such wonderful things. These are the things we should be highlighting in our school district. These are the things that make us very strong. These are the things that are the truth about the Ocean View School District, instead of listening to untruths, gross miscalculations, and gross overstatements of nonsense. Okay, first and lastly, I'd like to say that I do not have myself listed as the president anywhere on my website. If there is content from years ago, then that's what I was called as of recently. Don't come near me physically. Don't throw things at me. Mr. President,
Trustee?
I demand that you protect me as the speaker and that you demand my safety.
Trustees, please keep all items and hands to yourselves at all times. Thank you. If you need to pass something, pass it to me and I'll give it to the other trustees.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the kind of behavior that we don't need in a school district. We are here for children as young as 3 years old. Why are we having such misbehavior from adults? Outrageous and egregious. And I might add, and I'll come back later to add.
Trustee Singer?
Hi. So I had the privilege of attending Vista View's open house. It was amazing. The art, the engineering that is happening in our middle schools is amazing. I saw kids putting things together with toilet roll paper. It was just so awesome to see full in action. And it's exciting to see kids hands-on engineering, coming up with amazing programs, amazing ideas. And I think we're doing a really, really good job bringing those innovative programs throughout all of our schools. And I'm really, really proud of that. I was able to also get a little sneak peek of their play, Aladdin, that's coming up, and it looks really, really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. I also attended Lakeview's open house. Amazing art night. These kiddos are so talented. There was little TKers doing amazing art throughout. I mean, I wanted to take it all home, but I couldn't, obviously. But it was really, really awesome. Families, we had great attendance. It was a great, great night. I think as a district, we're doing an amazing job. We're moving in the right direction. There's always room for growth and improvement, but we are doing the right thing, and we are really, really excited to see that. So I also commend us, the cabinet, for doing such an amazing job and moving us in that direction. I'm really, really proud to be part of this team. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Briscoe?
We have amazing arts and music instructors. Mr. Nicolosi had the students at Marine View 5 years ago playing Also Sprach Zarathustra. That's the theme song for 2001: A Space Odyssey. That will remain a seminal moment in those students' minds and life. Every time they hear that music in a TV commercial or an event, they'll know that they played it. That's the kind of superlative work that our teachers do. My son had Mr. Nick for a teacher. He's a dedicated, devoted instructor, teaching on his own time, on his own dime, to help put these programs together. I'd like to recommend and commend Superintendent Hanson for creation, with her staff and Jody Bretlinger, the writing continuum, which stands head and shoulders above other nearby school districts, and I would say head and shoulders in the state. One particular pet peeve is cursive writing. Research shows that little tiny fingers that big really aren't so good at typing in second and third grade, and really not even in fourth grade. State law, state standard, state law requires instruction of cursive writing. Some nearby school districts, Los Alamitos to be specific, and many others, have decided to make it voluntary to teach it. So la-ti-da, let's violate the law and go on our way, and children suffer. They don't know how to read our Constitution, they can't read Chick-fil-A, they can't read anything in cursive, and it's shameful. I'm proud of our district and Dr. Hanson's installation of our writing continuum, which is a lot more than just cursive writing, and I won't go into it here. Dr. Hanson has installed a PE program that's meaningful and substantive for the first time in this district in decades. A PE program that stands head and shoulders above other school districts. It stands outstandingly so on its own merits, and that's wonderful. The speaker has repeatedly over time brought our attention to the math area. So as we roll out the writing and the PE program, I anticipate we'll take a look at the math area and work on the tested deficits that might exist in our district. I'm going to hand Mr. Ball my written opinion that Dr. Hanson distributed in the written comments about leveling the playing field versus working extra hard to raise the lower end of the playing field to be the same height as the other end of the playing field. It's something I feel strongly about. I won't take any more time tonight about it, but we have a lot of work to do all the time. Mr. President.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for showing up again and taking part in governance. I appreciate that. As always, I'm going to try to move the meeting along as quickly as I can to get you back to your families. I know you have important things in your lives and important people, and you want to get home and do our business here and get home as soon as possible, so I will do my best. A couple things here. I did respond to the email that I received from the trustee who addressed me in his comments. I said that, in my opinion, I did not agree with his opinions. So that's all I really have to say about that. I'd like to congratulate our arts and awards winners that we saw here tonight. Yet another example of the great things that are going on in our district. Really though, if you want to pick an example of some of the great things that are going on in our district, or just one of the great things, you just have to look no further than the performance that we just witnessed tonight. Phenomenal. Almost brought tears to my eyes. And my wife says I have a robot heart, so tears in my eyes. It's a remarkable thing. I too attended the ACCEPT School Administrators Conference. We took up 3.5 tables there. We all rallied around our two inductees, waved them as they gave their speeches and as they approached. We were there also with the Assistance League of HB, Huntington Beach, who is a phenomenal organization that gives thousands of dollars to our school district on a yearly basis to the different teachers. We honored Deputy Superintendent Michael Conroy and Principal William Lynch. It was a beautiful celebration. It was great to see them honored amongst the other schools, and we really had a great representation considering the number of schools that were there. We have outstanding teachers. There were some disparaging remarks made at a previous meeting with regards to teachers and bullying. There's nothing further from the truth. We have outstanding teachers here that do a great job. They are phenomenal. They are like family, and they deserve to be treated as such. And they work very hard every single day. Administration, I was talking to someone last night, I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to call her out, but we were talking a lot about what's going on in the district office, and she was mentioning to me that, it's like because I'm interested, I don't always see it behind the scenes. We visit the schools, we don't visit, administration very often. And she was saying that business, was changing at the office. It was becoming more organized. We were doing things in a different way. We'd done things the same way for so long that they were asking questions like, well, why are we doing it that way? Well, that's how we've always done it. Well, why does it work? Well, I don't know, we've just always done it that way. Well, let's try something new. And that's the definition of learning, that's the definition of growth. You have to try something new. We've always been innovative in Ocean View. I think we ran aground a few years back and perhaps weren't as innovative as we had been in the past, and I'm glad that we're getting back to the innovative methodologies that we've tried in the past. We are getting better, and we're growing every single year, and that means mistakes. We will make mistakes, but you learn more from your failures than you ever will from your successes. And I can appreciate being in this district, and I think we're having a phenomenal year, and I think we're going to continue to have phenomenal years. With that, I will close my comments, and I will move us on to Superintendent's Communications.
Well, good evening. State testing is going on this week and next week. I want to thank all of our fabulous teachers for their dedication to academic excellence and their careful planning and preparation all year long. And we know that not just the tests that the students take during this month are an example of their academic progress. There are so many other ways. And when we visit classrooms, when we see the projects and we see the demonstration of writing and oral presentations that they put on, we know that our students are having great success. And our state test, although required by the state of California, is also yet another way for us to demonstrate our success. And we are so happy about that. I want to say I was proud and pleased to represent Ocean View at the Distinguished School Ceremony at the Disneyland Hotel last week. President Souders joined us with a team of teachers from Circle View and from Starview. And those schools received an honor because they have demonstrated increased improvement in all of their subgroups over the past 3 years using those new state assessments. And they really have taken into consideration attention to academics and student engagement, which we are so proud of that both of those schools demonstrate so well. I too was in attendance at the AXA Awards. Congratulations to Dr. Conroy, to Mr. Lynch, and to our assistance lead. I don't think that Ocean View has attended this ceremony and had any award winners in quite some time, probably over 10 years. So it was quite an honor to be represented in the House with 3.5 tables of people to show their support for Ocean View. And tomorrow night, get to go to another celebration where we're going to be honored with all of the people in Orange County, the Orange County Music and Arts Educator Awards. You saw tonight that Dennis Nicolosi, John Morgan, and Sue Broderson are being awarded. Keep in mind that not every district has individuals that are nominated, let alone receive recognition and awards. And we have 3 of those from Ocean View. And then on Thursday, there's another celebration. It's the Celebrating English Learner Success. And we have 2 winners. Nancy Hoyt, she was here earlier, teacher at Springview, and Aldo Rivera, one of our interpreters that works here in the district office and around the district, will be receiving recognition. I think it's clear that these recognitions are a symbol of our growing success, stability, and most of all, the confidence of our peers, our colleagues, and our stakeholders that our district and employees are serving the students of Ocean View School District well. Thank you.
Thank you. K5, PTA, PTO, PTSA, PTSO, President's Roundtable. Do we have a representative here this evening? We're going to have to remedy that. Okay. K6, Employee Associations Communications. How about CSEA since you're listed? Oh, no? Okay. OVSD. Sorry. Thought you were going to escape.
We make our own little agreement down here. Sorry to not inform you.
Just give me finger signals.
Okay. Good evening, President Sauer, trustees, cabinet, Superintendent Hanson. First of all, I have to say, I think I'm the only teacher here, and I don't know how I'm going to share all the in our district. Okay, sorry. How I'm going to share all these positive remarks with them, but I'll do my best. My name is Pamela Shrub, and I'm representing the OVTA this evening. Teachers in the district are in the midst of state testing, some preparing for open houses, some just finishing up, but all in all, just continuing to keep our students focused and on course and looking forward, not to say we aren't, to a summer break, which is quickly approaching, 31 days. Over the last month, OVTA has been very busy, its members. First, we had our 2nd annual PAL retreat, and here we collaborated, had a team building activity, heard speakers from ABC School District and Fullerton School District to share their experiences of their PAL. Finally, we ended the day in signing agreement with administrators and teachers, OVTA and OVSD, to make working together our priority so that our schools will benefit all of our students. I also had the honor to be a part of the LCAP, the Local Control Accountability Plan. Not knowing what I was going into, I did my homework and I read my notes, and I still didn't know what I was going into. But at the end, I was very pleased because in following the rules, together with OVTA and OVSD, we looked at data, gave feedback, made collective agreements, how our money should be best served for our students' benefits. And together we engaged in authentic dialogue and made sure that all stakeholders were doing what we feel is best for our students, which drives us to do the best for our district. And I just really want to continue to thank you for all of your support and supporting the teachers and visiting our schools and working together with us. I want to also thank Superintendent Hansen and the Cabinet for continuing to strive to work diligently, at times even when it's not as positive as I would like it to be. And it's an honor to be a part of this school district, and every year that I continue to work for this district, it makes me proud. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, CSEA?
Good evening. My name is Jason Bozarth, and I am the chapter president for CSEA 375. I would like to thank the board for giving me this opportunity to speak. And as I'm sure everyone is well aware, the last meeting was just a tad heated. And I wanted to speak very, very briefly about it. When I was a child, if I had come up to my mother and asked for a cookie by calling her a socialist degenerate and a tool of the anti-cookie distribution union, the first thing that she probably would have done was take me to the doctors for a CAT scan. Make sure everything was okay. The second would be to give me a nice bar of soap to snack on. Under no circumstances would I have received a cookie. You don't convince someone of your argument and point of view by hurling insults. Which leads me to believe that the circus that we witnessed last time was really never about that. It was about justifying an ideology. Now, there were several people who left saying that, well, the board had already made up their minds. But I noticed that at every opportunity, Board President Souders had given everyone a chance to prove their case. I feel at times like this, it's important to remind everyone that this is a school district. It is not the place where activist members of the community should even want to push a political ideology or agenda. This is a small governing body that manages the affairs of under 24 sites and properties. That's it. There's absolutely nothing to be gained by creating an atmosphere where people are afraid or feel intimidated. And while I do not want to impinge upon the rights of our citizens, I would humbly ask, no, I would beg all parties concerned that we of OVSD, both classified and certificated, be allowed to conduct the business of this district and provide high-quality education. The kids don't deserve this. We, the employees, don't deserve this. The parents don't deserve having their school district turned into a political circus time and again. Please, I think I can confidently speak for a great many people in asking that we just move on to the business of the district. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, L reports. L1 construction update. I'm excited to hear about it. Interim housing, how that's going over there at Sunview. Superintendent, I think you're going to call on Deputy Superintendent.
That's right.
So,
Going to turn it over
Dr.
to Dr. Conroy, our big award winner. Pressure's on now.
Now you have to really show it.
President Sellers, trustees, Superintendent Hanson, cabinet guests. My recollection that this is the 21st Measure R construction update for this school year. So tonight, we're going to review Measure R priorities and board project goals that the board established a year ago in February, and really starts to play out now as I go through this presentation. I'll review the site layout plans and then some project timelines. We shared this with you in the past. Our projects all need to balance the scope, which is determined by the district, the design, which is done by the architect, the constructability is reviewed by the construction manager. We align that with our budget, which is our Measure R proceeds and the cash flow. The board's project goals, this is important because we'll talk about this as we go into the site plans. Number one is we want to do this in the safest possible manner, the least amount of disruption to the educational process. We want to be efficient and economical with how we deal with our resources. We want to maximize and control the construction process. We want to finish as quickly as we possibly stay within the calendar year so we can move schools in and out every year. So this is a copy of the DSA approved site plan for Sunview. And you'll notice on the right over here on the left-hand side, these are portables that will be placed for in-housing. At the bottom, this will be a three-tiered, or not three-tiered, but a three-section portable building used for MPR. We've got buildings that we'll add here. These two right here, we currently have two old portables that we will be demolishing, removing and replacing with portable buildings. At the upper end here, we have a restroom building that will be added for the modernization. And then at the top here, a couple more portables, and then the locker rooms for the middle school. And then on the west side, the right-hand side, we'll be adding some basketball courts. So this is important to understand the layout of the site. We're adding a staff parking lot up at the top here to accommodate the increased staff that will be coming to the school site, and we'll be basically converting the parking lot at the bottom down here for busing drop-off and pickup and for parent community parking. So we're kind of redesigning the structure and the flow of the school. This is the layout in a more colorful manner. The orange are the portable buildings that will be added. The red or the pink one here is the restroom. This oranger one here is the purpose room that we'll be adding. And the green one is the current existing multi-purpose room. What I want to share with you in the green boxes in May, because of the timeline to get the work done by the end of August so that we can move Westmont in, is that we have to bring some portables on to the campus in May to get that work done. It just won't fit during these 6 weeks during summertime. So we have to come in and do that. The outline of the green here will be fencing. So when the portables come on the campus, they'll be behind the green fencing. And the construction workers will work within the temporary fencing. They will not be allowed outside the fencing except for when they leave the property. In the summer, the other portable buildings will be delivered onto the campus, and the work will be done at that time. This is the construction activity we've had to date. In the April 24th board meeting, the CEQA environmental study was approved by the board. Then that 2 days later, we bid the Sunview construction project. The DSA approved the project on April 30th. We had the second advertisement on May 3rd. The due date for the bid proposals will be May 24th, and we'll bring those bids to the board on June 12th. And construction will technically start on Monday, June 25th, the week after school lets out. We've set a date for staff occupancy to be Monday, August 17th. So we have a week for staff to come back into the buildings, into the portables, into the offices to get ready for the following week when is the required start of the school year, when all staff are required to report. And the contractual end of the project for the contractors will be September 18th, but that will be to do punch list items, things that we can do after hours, after staff has occupied the building. As part of the site timeline, this past weekend, we demolished the ball walls and removed the basketball courts so that the portable buildings can be placed. This coming weekend, the contractors will come in and survey the areas where the portable buildings will be. They will stake and mark out where the portable buildings will eventually be placed. They will erect the temporary fencing on May 21st, a week, 2 weeks, basically 2 weeks from today. That week we'll begin delivery of the portable buildings. They'll arrive early in the morning before school, and the construction workers will work to assemble the portable buildings until they're finished that day, and the next day they'll continue to bring in portables until we finish that process. The June 29th will be the last day that will allow staff to pack, to purge their rooms, to get what they need packed so we can move them out of the existing site into the portables so that we can start the modernization actual work the following week. And that concludes my report.
Board questions? Trustee Briscoe?
I've heard some feedback from the community regarding our closed school site process. There still is an opinion around and about that we're closing some number of different sites, more than one. I just want to confirm, for the record, we're closing one school site, that's Sunview.
That's correct.
Thank you. And we should do a better job communicating that outbound, Dr. Hanson, however you do that. 2, have we done anything to encourage our community to buy bonds in our district?
No.
What is the interest rate we're currently selling at for our bonds?
I don't recall. I'd have to go and research.
Would you do that for me, please? And would you please inquire as to any way for our local community members to take advantage of the 4% interest or whatever it is that we're paying on these things? It might well be a lot more than the half of 1/8 of 1% of the of A. I'd like to encourage members in our community to buy bonds. I'd like to know how that can take place with whoever holds and sells the bonds, if it's possible. 3, the driveway on the Sunview site, on the unnumbered page, whatever, any of them. There's a new driveway on the back. It looks like there's a new curb cut for a driveway apron. Am I correct?
I believe there's already a curb cut there, and we're using the existing curb.
So there is an existing driveway there.
That's my understanding.
Are you aware that Dr. Cotton and Nurse Pellman RN led the board in a giant $1 million land giveaway to the city of 15 feet across the entire back of the lot with an easement? And the city lied. And people died. No, they didn't die. The city lied. The city has a storm drain easement on the adjacent parcel, but they allowed the apartment owners to build buildings on top of that. And so they had no backbone to stand up and do it right. So they came begging to the school district to have us give them a permanent, perpetual 15-foot easement across the entire back of the property. So Dr. Conroy, for your information, there is a 15-foot easement across the entire back of Sunview from street to street. So if it's okay for us to build parking structures on that, I believe it is, that's fine. The easement is for a storm drain underneath the city put in. However, I'm looking at the other page now with the locker rooms. And it looks like that locker room is awfully close to the property line, a lot closer than 15 feet. Do you have any opinion about the legality of placement of structures over a storm drain easement?
I can't address.
And there was a storm drain down there, the city put it in. They paid us nothing, by the way. I advocated payment, and Dr. Cotton and Nurse Pellman thought not, but Lord moved it. So I'd like to look into that, because there's a storm drain down there. And there's an easement, so there's 2 things going on. An easement that we can put things on top of, and there's a structure underneath there. Let's see, my next question is that you'll look into that for us.
Yes.
Next question is, what are the locker room occupancies?
I don't have that information with me. I don't know.
Would you look into that, please, and then also provide me with what plans you have to ameliorate any insufficiency relative to the average PE locker room class size? In our regular locker rooms, it's 54 persons, one of the most robust in the entire city. I don't think these locker rooms are going to hold 54 people. So I'd like to know what they do hold, and then we have to have a plan to utilize that space legally and correctly. You'll look into that for me?
Yes, sir.
And then last is, what is the multi-purpose room occupant load?
I don't have that information with me. I get back to you.
I'd like to know that, because if the NPR does not hold half of the school site, then we have a space utilization problem. And I think you said you had 3 double-wide modules that we're going to put together to create that space.
But, yes, I'll get that information.
Thank you.
Trustee Westbrook?
Thank you, Mr. President. Indeed, that storm drain easement is important. I seem to remember that we cannot build on top of it, but I could be wrong. Just wanted to correct Trustee Briscoe. He was saying former Trustee Pellman and former Trustee Cotton pushed this thing through. This was a board-approved easement. It was done by board approval. It wasn't just 2 people. Mr. President, I'd like to remind you that in previous times where we asked questions from the board, you've indicated you want all the questioning to come through you. And I'm noticing this evening that we're not doing it like that. And so I'd ask that we have consistency, that when we ask questions, it's either going to all come through you and you're going to parrot the questions like the operator gave, like you do for me. That we do that for all trustees. And we can do it one or the other. I prefer we do it the other way, like normal adults. But whatever it is, I'd like us to be consistent in the future.
Okay. You can just go through me then. That'll be fine. Trustee Briscoe, I'd remind you to go through me as well. Thank you.
I have a question about the Sunview interim housing DSA site plan. It's showing the old parking down in the lower portion there. And that looks like to be the way it is now. And so I'm understanding that's going to be a new bus egress for this thing. And I'm not seeing that in there. All I'm seeing is parking spaces. So how is DSA approving this for a bus route or bus drop off if we're not showing it on here?
Deputy Superintendent, are you referring to, first of all, Trustee Westwell, are you referring to the west end parking lot or the east end parking lot?
The one at the bottom of the page, and I believe that's south, I guess.
South or west, okay, either one, but yeah, on the bottom of the page. Deputy Superintendent?
When we have bus drop off, we don't have to necessarily paint it if we're going to drop them off in the parking lot.
For DSA approval, we don't need that as we're hearing.
Right.
Okay, thank you. And how are we going to do the bus drop off there so that we know as trustees? Do we have any kind of plan yet?
We'll get that safety plan. Have you done any plans regarding the safety of the bus drop off as well as I know we did some
Point of order.
research as well.
Point of order.
So if you could answer his question. If you could go through me, please, you're asking a question directly of him.
Point of order.
Question you want to ask me? Yes, your point of order.
If I'm going to ask a question, I expect an answer to my question. I don't expect my question to be parsed and changed and modified. I have a question, and
Ask your questions through me then,
and
please.
that is the question that I would like to have answered. I don't need someone to change my question for me.
I hear what
And
you're saying.
that is why,
Please ask your questions through me.
and that is why I believe it's in the best interest of the board for us to ask you for permission and then ask the question directly
I'd
to
rather you
my
just went
opinion.
through me.
And that's fine, and I expect my question to be asked in the same exact language that I asked you. Please.
Okay. Go ahead then, sir. Repeat your question. I'll be happy to put it to Deputy Superintendent Conley.
Do we have any idea of how this bus route, bus drop-off thing is going to be configured at this point?
Do we have any way do we have any way of knowing how this bus drop-off route will be completed at this point in time? Deputy Superintendent Conroy?
We're having that conversation with the Director of Transportation, and we're addressing the number of buses that we would need to bring in here, and I can bring that back to the board another time.
Do we know how many buses that we're able to actually park in this parking lot here?
Do we know how many buses are able to park in the parking lot?
And they're actually not gonna park, they will stop, let students off, but the buses arrive in phases, they don't come all at the same time. But again, I will get that to you in terms of what their busing plan is.
Thank you.
The capacity. Okay, thank you. All right, on page Sunview interim housing plan, color one with the little green boxes. Do we have any known asbestos in these portables that we're going to be taking apart?
We're not taking anything apart, we're actually delivering and putting them together.
Are there any asbestos, known asbestos in the portables?
Any known asbestos that you're aware of?
Okay. In the construction, various construction stuff that we're doing, starting now and in the summer, are we going to have any on-site guards out there to protect from vandalism and destruction of the stuff that's going on, the construction that's going on in the evenings?
Are we looking at outside guards?
No.
Point of order.
For the evening?
Point of order, Mr. President.
Trustee Russell?
Point of order.
I would really, I'm going to ask it again. If I'm going to ask a question, I really
Point of order.
expect the question.
We have a point of order already on the floor, we have to answer that first.
Thank you, Mr. President. I really need to have my questions asked, not your questions. Mr. President, you have plenty of time to ask your questions. I have specific questions that I'd like to ask, and I'm not getting my
I heard your
questions
point of order, I understand what you're
answered
saying, and I'm
when
going
you're
to
changing my
now.
language of my questions, sir.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you ask your questions through me, and then the deputy superintendent will be able to answer your questions after listening to them right over the microphone. That will facilitate, I think, the speed and deliverance of the meeting. So go ahead and ask your questions to me, the superintendent can respond.
I thank you, Mr. President. I really think this is going to help this board go through our deliberations much quicker
Go ahead.
and faster, and it's going to have a much better impact when we work together on the board like this.
Point of order.
Yes, trustee Gaten.
President Souders, you are the chair of the meeting. You can rule as you see fit.
And I ruled, and I say that he can ask his questions, and deputy superintendent can respond to them. And I'm not going to repeat each question. I think that I agree that is a waste of time. But as long as the question is asked to me, and then deputy superintendent can respond.
Thank you.
Trustee Westphal, continue.
Thank you, Mr. President. So my question is, while we're doing the construction and the modification and the demolition and all this, there's going to be a lot of instability and things are going to be in disarray, and there's a lot of opportunities for vandalism and theft, things in that nature. And so I'm trying to ascertain, do we plan on having guards guarding these sites, especially during the night while we're doing construction?
Deputy superintendent?
Well, I would disagree with the premise of your question, but the answer is no.
And why would that be that we're not going to do that? Why do we feel it's necessary not to have a guard during the construction phase?
Deputy superintendent?
Well, at the school now, we don't have a guard at night. Everything will be locked up at the end of the evening. Things will not be in disarray. Any work that's done inside the pods, the doors will be closed and locked. Any work that's done inside the portables will be closed and secured behind the fencing. And if we deem it necessary from conversations with the contractors that either the buildings and or the supplies that they may have left are encountering any vandalism, we'll make the appropriate decision at that time to have security.
Okay. And I have one more here. I think that will end my questions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, board. Any questions? Trustee Bates, none?
No, thank you.
First of all, I have a couple questions, just quick ones. Just reminders for the gallery as well as for myself. We are shutting down Sunview and moving the staff and the students from Sunview to which location?
The
correct me
students,
if I'm
the
wrong.
staff, some of the staff that currently are working at Sun are going to be transferred to Westmont.
Okay.
So they will come back in September to Westmont under the guise of being at Westmont School with Principal Sue Broderson. And I believe there are one or two teaching staff that have elected to transfer to other school sites. And we're working through the process of working with the classified staff in terms of where they will move as well.
And then who will be occupying Sunview?
The school that goes under modernization, in this case, this next year will be Westmont.
Will be Westmont.
Correct.
Okay. So Westmont, basically, we're moving we're taking the Sunview population, incorporating it into Westmont, fixing it up over the summertime. Then Westmont, well, they'll be away for summer, but the following year they're coming back to Sunview to occupy Sunview while Westmont is modernized, correct?
Yes.
And then the page 7 with the green fencing around it, I'm assuming that green fencing will encircle all of those portables, right?
Yes, this is, for this time right now, that would be temporary around the portables that we're delivering in May. Once we start the actual construction project, there will be temporary fencing. There will be temporary fencing all around the construction work.
Okay, and the portables that we're getting, are they new portables?
Yes.
They are new portables. New to us or new to me?
New.
And will they have
Refurbished.
Refurbished.
New refurbished.
Okay, and that's fine. And do they have just basic electricity? Are they going to have plumbing? Because I'm just trying to think of the scope of what's going to be going on there.
These are going to be typical classrooms, so they'll have electrical, HVAC. There will be no plumbing.
Okay, and then the bathrooms there are going to be
Right here.
right in there. Okay, so they're pretty centrally located, the bathrooms. And where will we have water for the students? I know we already have water in existence there on the school site.
I couldn't address where they are
Right now?
We've talked about water though.
Okay, thank you. And then, that's about it. I love the site. It's like a crop circle. I said it before, I don't know what went on back there in the 70s and 60s. Really interesting. Okay, Trustee Clayton, you have?
I do have one question, President Souders.
Yes.
If you look at page 8, I'm on page 8, Sunview Interim Housing Site Plan. I'm looking at, it says 4 new 20 by 40 lunch shelters. I know that was one of the schools in the past that the parents were looking into having a certain type of lunch shelter. What are we doing? What are we going to be doing there? What are the lunch shelters going to look like? And I'm really pleased that we're going to have, the lunch shelters there, because I know that was one of the things that was, the parents were concerned with when they wanted an upgrade there. So can you, Trustee Souders, answer that, direct the question to appropriate staff?
Yeah, Deputy Superintendent, if you could answer that. I have an idea, but I don't want to speak out of turn, so. Good.
I believe that they are temporary, permanent, carport style shade structures.
Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
Question? Will they be solid top?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Trustee Westphal?
Thank you, Mr. President. We're going to be starting installing fencing and portables while kids are still going to school. Can you describe what sort of screening we've done for fingerprinting and TB testing and that sort of thing for bringing people onto campus while children are there?
That is one of the requirements, the bid documents that the contractor is required to do, and that Desmond Meyer, construction manager, will be doing the checking on that.
Okay, can you describe if the safety of the children could be impacted at all by this construction while they're there? Have we mitigated everything to satisfactorily?
We believe we've mitigated that. We've had the conversations with the site principal. We're doing it the week after testing. And all the workers will be inside the temporary fence line and will be managed by Desmond Meyer, site construction manager.
Thank you. because of the problems we've had in the past with construction, I would really encourage us to stay on top of this. Perhaps the principal walking the site daily, that sort of thing, to ensure that we don't have problems, things don't get left out that shouldn't be, gates are locked that should be locked, and that sort of thing. I'm concerned because we have construction going on at the same time as children. We've had problems before. So I hope we do everything we can to be proactive to avoid any kind of problem, because this is a lot going on here.
We're well aware of the issues that have taken place in the past, and we believe we take an appropriate action to cover all those situations.
Thank you, that's great news. No more questions.
Deputy Superintendent, one second. Trustee Briscoe, have we had any issues since we've hired Desmond Myers with regards to safety on our school sites?
No.
Thank you. Trustee Briscoe?
In my experience, the previous problem was previous administrators who were too good and too clean to go out to visit weekly meetings with a contractor to make sure that work was being done. And I think we fixed that problem. I would like to know where the drinking fountains are. Since there is going to be no water to any of these portables, I'd like to know where the drinking fountains are that comport to California state minimum distance to water provision for students, especially with a active PE program and locker rooms where children are going to be working up a sweat, I would hope, something substantial in the way of exercise. So when you work on those other interrogatories, Dr. Conroy, I'd like to know where the drinking fountain locations are, unless you can point them out on this little map.
We will bring the water plan to you another time.
Thank you. There is, Mr. President, is there any water near the new portable classrooms like we have in our other portables?
I don't see any on this site.
I was really not asking you.
Trustee Superintendent? Well, I'd like to answer it if I can.
What is the question?
Our normal, Mr. President, our normal portable classrooms around the rest of the district have a drinking fountain in each classroom, which is great because we need to provide the students water. Is there any drinking fountain in any of these new portables we're putting in? And if not, that makes the drinking fountains outside even more important.
There are no drinking fountains on the inside of these buildings. Remember, these are temporary. And if we add the plumbing lines and all that, it increased the cost for the temporary site. So we will bring the water plan to you at another time.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
If I may, before we end, Chris Meyer here, who can address your question about the storm drain.
Oh, yes.
I'd like to just bring that to resolution now.
Good evening. Hello? Yeah. Well, first of all, I was unaware of the 15-foot storm drain easement. I did not know that, and that's good information, but I don't think we're going to have a problem in that. The construction of the locker rooms are simply set on wood skids. There's no foundations required because they're under 2,000 square feet each. So ESA is allowing us to set them on a wood surface foundation. I don't think that's going to be an issue. If they would have to, for some reason, have to work on the storm drain, we'd have to move that locker room. We could certainly do that, but I don't think it would be worth it at this time to rearrange the entire campus for something that, in all probability, is not going to happen. The asphalt parking lot would be the only other thing, according to this drawing, that may be built over the top of that easement, but again, I don't foresee a problem. I know there was a question on the bus drop-off, and looking at the Sunview Interim Housing Site Plan 4, it's right down here. If you look right here, that line, that is where I believe the bus drop-off is. And that's why that line indicates that the buses would come up. You see that right here? So there are no parking spaces there. That's the bus drop-off zone.
Thank you. Mr. Rizzo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Further to that easement, I recall when the city approached us, there was two options. We could run it down the grass where it is currently, or the other proposal was to put it on the other side of the northern fence under the driveway, I believe it's a driveway parking back there for an apartment complex that's on the other side, some sort of residential units. And the argument was that they didn't want to rip up all that asphalt. It would be more costly to rip it up and replace it and put it back than it would be to go over through the grass. And I believe that was a major consideration why that decision was made, if I remember correctly. And it's a little concerning now that we're putting down asphalt that might have to be ripped up on our side, because it's okay to rip it up on their side. We're trying to be helpful to everybody involved and be collaborative with the city. But now we may be responsible. So I'm really curious to hear more about this easement and what the requirements are, because I certainly don't remember. And I would ask Ledesma and Myers to please contact the city and collaborate with them to make sure that they have no intentions of doing any kind of maintenance work or anything that's going to cause it to be ripped up and problems for us. So we kind of have some advance notice of what their intentions are. Probably going to be just fine, but it's always wise to do due diligence. Thank you.
Trustee Briscoe?
An historical perspective, the city finally confessed. I went down, spent a half day going through all the records for all the permits and all the building for that giant apartment complex next door, and the city screwed up big time, as they did over on the Lowe's site, where they asked us to give away 100 square feet of our property in all perpetuity for an easement. Another story. In this easement, they screwed up. They let the apartment building put a building in the structure on top of their public storm drain easement. The city had every right and every responsibility to make them tear it up, the driveway to all the garages, and then actually tear down the garages that they illegally allowed to be built over the storm drain, and put in the new storm drain, which is twice as big as the old one. And Ocean View School District was suckered into giving them $1 million worth of land for free that we should have sold to them with the easement underneath. And that was under the leadership of Dr. Cotton, JD, and Nurse Pellman, RN. So, and the board did duly vote on it. The final meeting, the city fessed up and did admit in the public records on the recording that they had made a gross and giant error, and as a result, they are coming back on their knees begging us to give up our land for them. So on to the salient problem at hand, since we've given away $1 million worth of land already with the easement. As long as we don't build a permanent structure on top of it, parking lots and temporary buildings on top, I believe would comport to standard use without any special permission or permitting by any state agency, and the city has no business permitting anything. There also should be sufficient structural integrity to put a portable on top of the giant storm drain line they put underneath there. And it's unlikely the city would have to come back and tear up our driveway. However, if they had to do major repairs on that storm drain, they would have to come back and tear up the parking lot. But then they would also generally have to fix it as well, so they're responsible for fixing. The rationale at the time was that a standard side rear yard setback, if this site were ever to be developed for residential, is 20 feet for that area, so a 15-foot easement falls within the 20-foot setback for residential development and didn't provide any problem with alternate utilizations for the school property if it were to be developed for residential use. So I just had the question, and it's clear that nobody was aware of the easement. So now you're all aware of it, and my experience as a licensed broker is that those are the rules that apply to easements, and they would have to fix it if they had to tear it up. Mr. President, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you. Deputy Superintendent, can you look into just exactly where the easement is so we have a little bit clearer idea? I'm looking at the map, and I want to make sure that it's even a problem. It may not even be a problem at this point in time, but if you could direct Ledesma Meyer to maybe find out where it is, and if it is even lying under the property, it could be to the north of the property for all we know, and this could be a moot point. But either way, we'll find out one way or the other. Trustee Russell.
Just one last note here. I seem to remember that the district had advised that we looked into the future as far as we could, and we did not see us building anything on that area. That's why one of the reasons why we approved it. We thought way into the future, many decades later, if the site was ever sold, residential might be built there, and so it looked like it would work. But I seem to remember we had no intentions of ever building there, and that's a big reason that got put there. They just said I'd bring that up for historical reference.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Superintendent. Appreciate all your hard work. It's looking good. I can't wait to see it actually in effect.
We're all looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you. That brings us to M, consent calendar. That's before us tonight for approval.
Move to approve. Second.
All right, have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion on this one? Thank you again for reminding me of that. Move to the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to N, old business. There is none. That takes us to O, new business. O1, administrative services, resolution number 24/1718, resolution implementing pre-qualification of construction contractors under public contract code section 20111.6 is before us tonight for action. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Any discussion? Trustee Westwell.
Do we have a total estimated cost for this?
Deputy Superintendent, do we have a total estimated cost for construction? I think we had that at the last meeting.
The total cost for the project, what total cost are you referring to?
The pre-qualification process says it will be embedded in each specific project fund. What's the aggregate total cost?
I don't have that. The pre-qualification cost is something to be borne by the contractor. Chris, you want, can I bring Chris Meyer up?
Absolutely.
The pre-qualification process is required by the state for any projects over $1 million. As far as the cost of that is minimal. Basically, the contractors bear the cost of doing the pre-qualification. We simply assist with the district in scoring it. And the purpose of it is to make sure that the contractors in the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing trades, along with the general contractors that bid your work, are qualified to do it.
Understood. Okay. I'm looking on page 47. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whereas is down. Whereas the questionnaire is not a public record and is not to be open to the public inspection, and it's my understanding that according to the Brown Act, there are certain things that can be held in secret from the public. And those certain things are codified, such as labor negotiations, land transactions, student discipline, and there's a couple more. I can't recall them off the top of my head. But if we're going to say that this is not a public document, it's not a public record, which category is that going to fall under?
Let me
Yes.
This resolution was vetted and written by our attorneys. So under their legal advice, this is the language they are recommending. So at this point, I would say, because our attorneys have written it, they've done the due diligence to make sure it abides by all proper codes.
It's unfortunate we don't have a lawyer here to ask tonight. I don't think that's accurate, but I understand that's your answer. Also, the whereas right below it, it says, whereas each questionnaire submitted by a prospective bidder will be scored in accordance with an established point system. What is that established point system? I understand it's Exhibit B, and I could not locate the Exhibit B in this document. Someone direct me to it.
Deputy Superintendent.
So on page 51, you'll see Exhibit A. Excuse me, on page 60 is Exhibit A. On page 68 is Exhibit B. Page 69 is Exhibit C. And on page 73 is Exhibit D. The numbering system is on page 77.
I'm not following this. Let's break it up a little bit. What is the established point system?
If you look on page 77, you will see the numeric rating.
someone explain that to me, because I looked at this and I can't make heads or tails of it. What do all these numbers mean on page 77, and where do they come from?
The numerical rating that you see on page 77 is the result of interviews from the references that the contractors give. So those contractors or those references are called, and they're asked, how did the contractor perform as to scheduling, change orders, working relationships, and so forth. That point system is given, and the questions are asked. How would you rate this contractor with a -2 being unsatisfactory and above average being a 5, for instance, on scheduling? And
I'm sorry, let me interrupt you. Where is the scoring scale? Where can I look at that?
it's right here. I mean,
How do I know, pardon me for interrupting, but how do I know we don't start off with a scale of -100 to +500?
Well,
or
this-
-3 to +10? I'm not seeing that scale.
Okay, the scale system is something that has been put together with legal counsel's assistance in trying to identify what's important for your projects. In other words, a contractor that's consistently late is one that we would rather not have. A contractor that is litigious is a contractor, if they're very litigious.
I understand how scoring systems work, but where do we get that scale?
That scale is just the process of putting it together. That's one of the things that the district is approving in regards to this guy.
Do you have page 77 in front of you?
Yes.
Mars?
So
Is that the scale?
What's that?
Is that the scale?
That's the scale. So if we call a reference that the contractor gives us and ask how did they perform as far as their scheduling, and they said they're average, then you get a 3 points for scheduling.
And why wouldn't it be 4 points?
Well, because that's just been established, it's a rubric, just like teachers give. If there's an assignment in a class, they may say neatness is 5 points, the quality of, or punctuation is 10 points, and so forth. This is just like a rubric.
Terrific. I'd like to get a copy of that rubric, please, so I could have a hard copy of it and see it in front of me. Is that possible?
So you have it. This is the rubric.
Well, how do you-
We simply, in the interview process, we write down the rating on the right-hand side, and total points. Okay, you see the chart? Okay, let's just look at scheduling.
A.
Item A, okay? We make the phone call, the guy says he's average as far as his scoring, or his scheduling. And so we would put the 3 points there. That point total is total. And with a maximum total possible of 45. Don't ask me what the passing score is on this, because I haven't studied this particular one to tell you what the minimum score is. In other words, we're looking for contractors that perform, that work safe, that
Sure.
are not litigious.
So I understand the 3 and the average. Now, what are these?
The minus-
below average is -1 right next to it. How did that get there?
Because if we've got somebody that doesn't perform, then we dock points. We're able to dock points or add points. In other words, when you see dock points like claims, yeah, that's a big issue. You get somebody that's a claims-oriented contractor, we gotta not have them score them. And if they have a history of suing everybody that they work for, we wanna make sure that comes out in this room.
So whose numbers are these?
These are just arbitrary numbers scored to make good contractors, to let good contractors through, and to hold up bad ones, which is exactly why the law was written.
Okay. And the scale is obviously connected to these questions over here, right?
Yes. There's also some pass-fail questions that you see early on in the questionnaire. For instance, if the contractor's ever been debarred, in other words, their license been taken away, we don't want them. So those are, and what the law says is that you have to have a universal way of approving contractors and pre-qualifying. And that's what this questionnaire basically does. Everybody's treated the same way.
Where does it say Exhibit B on here on page 77? And you can come back to that later.
Exhibit B was on page 68.
let's see. Yeah, on page 48. Section 4. In accordance with Public Contract Code Section 20111.6, the district adopts the uniform system of allocating points as set forth in the document attached as Exhibit B. So that's what we were just talking about. So I'm understanding that Exhibit B is how we're going to do the scoring. That's the universal thing. I can't understand why this thing is already filled out if you haven't asked any questions yet.
Exhibit B is a questionnaire that the contractor fills out. He gives us some projects that he's recently completed or whatever. The 3 largest projects within the past 3 years, for instance, public or private.
Understood, but we haven't done anything yet. This is just
No,
a
this
blank
is,
form.
all you're approving is the format. The district doesn't take exception to the way the contractors are being pre-qualified. This, again, referencing Dr. Conroy, this is the legal counsel's approved document. This is something that a universal scoring procedure that they have no problem.
That's what I'm hearing. Okay. Let's move on here. Maybe I can come back to it. Let's move over to page 49, section 12. The board hereby delegates to the district's superintendent or his/her designee the authority to determine whether a potential bidder shall be considered pre-qualified. And section 13, the board hereby delegates to the district superintendent or his/her designee the authority to hear and oversee pre-qualification determination appeals. I'm curious to hear from my fellow comrades up here on the board as to why we would want to delegate our authority. Under Board Bylaw 9000-10, let me just read it here. 9000-10. This is role of the board, powers and responsibilities. So these are our responsibilities. BB 9000-10. Convene as a judicial and appeals body and serve as the final decision maker in accordance with law, board policies, and negotiated agreements. Pretty clear, that's our responsibility as a board. So I'd like to understand why, I'd like to hear why the superintendent feels that it's a good idea, and I'd like to hear from the board too, why they think it's a good idea for the board to delegate its responsibilities and its authority. Clearly we can do this, but the question is, why would the board want to give up that authority and oversight? That's what our job is here at the district, according to our bylaws. So, we could do a resolution that says we're gonna make everything delegated to the superintendent. And then all we'd have to do is come in and do a superintendent's evaluation. We wouldn't even have to come here. We wouldn't need a board anymore. So I'm really loath to give up this authority and responsibility that's clearly been given to the board to do. So I'm curious to hear from the superintendent and my fellow trustees why they think that's a good idea. And then let's see.
Your time's up.
Trustee Westway, your time's up. Will you yield the floor to another questioner?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Trustee Springer? Oh, I'm sorry. Trustee Briscoe's hand was up first. I apologize.
I heard the word arbitrary. The scoring is not arbitrary. The scoring is based on years and decades of experience and the decision, the weighting decision of the scorer to decide if average is 3 and if outstanding is 5 and not say that it's 1 or 2. And then second, there's specific court case law and statutory law, I believe, that I've read that addresses the matter of confidentiality of trade secrets of vendors. So when vendors come in, and I'm going to say Mr. Cho would probably be able to comment on this as well, when vendors come in and provide their double secret handshake basis for their low bids or whatever bid they have, we can't share that with other competitors because it would open up, it would be nobody want to bid, and it wouldn't be fair. So on matters of trade secret and the inner workings of how the bid came about, we can keep that confidential and secret for the reasons that Macy's doesn't talk to Gimbels. That's all, Mr. President.
Thank you. Trustee Senior?
I want to clarify.
We would delegate the authority for you to vet and obtain the information, but then you would bring it back to the board for final approval, correct?
Deputy Superintendent or Superintendent?
That is correct. There's, in my tenure as your superintendent, I haven't delegated authority for major decisions. They have all come through the board.
So, if I'm understanding the process correctly, let me just see if I can summarize this. Basically, you're going to be accepting bids from a number of different people that want to actually perform these construction duties. And what you are laying out before us here is the methodology in which you're going to employ to rank these different bidders based on references that they give, calls you make to vet their performance on previous jobs. And this quote-unquote rubric is one that we use when referencing or when talking to the references to sort of score the different bidders on a uniform scale so that there's no favoritism in any way, shape, or form. Thank you. And then we use that to figure out what the best bidders would be for our job based on that criteria, correct? Mr. Desmond?
No, I'm Meyer.
I'm sorry, Mr. Meyer.
He's got hair, I don't.
Yeah, you guys. Mr. Meyer, sorry.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify something. The scoring, this is not to determine and ranking the bidders, so to speak. That's determined in the bid. This just gives people that pass this are able to bid your projects. They still have to be low. All your projects, all of the trades are publicly bid, and it's a public opening. And the low responsive bidder is going to get the project. Just keeps unqualified bidders from being able to bid your work. In other words, if you had a framing contractor that built patio covers for a living and had never done a school, I really don't think you'd want him framing a new school for you, or in addition to a school, when he doesn't have that level of experience.
Or if you had someone who'd been sued by every person that they've ever worked for.
Exactly.
The same thing. So that would just eliminate them from even making a bid at that point in time.
It doesn't mean that somebody can't get through the rubric. This simply slows down and sets a certain bar of quality for the contractors that bid your work.
Got it.
And excuse me,
I'm sorry.
our goal is, because we've managed nearly 5,000 contractors now, prime bidders, over the last 21 years. And we've only had to replace 5 people. So, and we did fine even before the pre-qualification process, but this is the law, so we have to follow the law. But we try to set the bar at a level to keep out the worst of the worst. Doesn't mean we can't, we would love to have all the very, very best people we could get, but then we're cutting down the competition. Competition drives price. So the idea is to set the bar at a level where we can get adequate competition and therefore a good price for the district, but yet get the job done.
Absolutely. And so then in terms of designation, this would be, I'm assuming Deputy Superintendent and his team, and you as well, sir, we're designating authority to the team to be able to do all this due diligence, vet all these people in the initial phases, after which time the people that you came back with, because I remember doing this in the past, you give us a list of people, you say all these people met it, here are their bids, they met our criteria, now board, you get to make a decision as to which one you want to proceed with, correct?
Yes, this process is done once a year for each contract, okay? So you'll see in the back, there's a short form that if they haven't had any substantial changes in their, that's the last page, that page 81, affidavit in support of request for renewal of pre-qualification. So this is something if we've got a contractor that's performing all the time, we don't require them to submit their financials again. Their they're testifying or basically certifying that they haven't had any substantial changes in their performance. We don't see anything, there's no reason to question that. In regards to affording authority to the superintendent, understand that the board is approving a process by which contractors are pre-qualified in a uniform manner, okay? The superintendent, basically, it would be impractical for us to take every time contractors get pre-qualified for us to take it to you unless we have a consent item. And considering your board schedules, you know, we're gonna be losing bidders. And the whole idea for us is to get as many bidders as we can. And so that's why the superintendent, if we have an issue, somebody's pre-qualified, they don't make the point scale, and they appeal, the superintendent would be in charge of overseeing that process of the appeal. We have to list all of the approved bidders, all the pre-qualified bidders in the MP&E, mechanical, plumbing, electrical trades, and the general contractors. We have to list those as part of our process of determining the bidders for the job. So actually, that's part of the process I don't like, is that everybody knows who the competition is. But that's the law.
Okay. Trustee Clayton?
So,
I don't feel we're abdicating our authority at all. This is the way it's done, and we delegate certain authorities to the superintendent to be able to determine potential bidders shall be considered pre-qualified. If we, like you said, or like the speaker said, if we had to do this, we'd have to be in this boardroom constantly. These are things that are done for ease of doing business, and it would be totally impractical to do it any other way. I think this discussion needs to end. I'm ready to call the question. I'm going to do so. Make a motion to call the question.
Second.
There's been a motion before to call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay, Westwell, nay.
Okay. Motion carries 4-0 with Westwell in dissent. And that moves us on to 02, or the vote on 01 then. We're reporting on 01. Thank you. So,
Point of order.
yes.
When I made a motion, there was a second, there was no discussion.
No, I apologize. Any discussion? No, we don't have any discussion on a question. We just
Oh, okay.
move right to the vote.
Then
That's the
I
whole
stand
point, is
clarified.
any discussion. So now we're on 01. Going to the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Westwell, no.
Okay. Motion carries 4-0. 4-1. Apologize. With Westmont consent. The last motion also carried 4-1. In error as well with Westmont consent. Can you correct that for the record? All right. 02. Administrative services acceptance of apparent bid results and award of contracts for various categories for the Oakview Gymnasium NPR project is in front of us tonight for action. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay, and I believe this actually, if I'm not mistaken, is where the board actually comes into play and starts looking at some of the bids, correct? So we'll open it up for discussion. Any questions? Trustee Westwell?
Thank you. I'm sorry if I'm not mistaken, we received information on our board update on May the 4th. In that board update, page 4, let's see, let me go back a little bit. It talks about a big bid protest for electrical scope of work for Oakview Gymnasium, talks about RDM Electric and First Electric. First Electric was the lowest responsible bidder. The crux of the situation is that the First Electric was the apparent lowest bidder with a total of $586,000. RDM was the apparent second lowest bidder with a bid totaling $607,000. However, First Electric's bidder questionnaire was not completely filled out. First Electric's response argued that RDM RDM bid protest was untimely and that it was an honest mistake that they failed to completely fill out the information. In addition, First Electric provided and clarified the missing information that it had initially failed to provide. While technically, First Electric's omission of information could be determined to be non-responsive and rejected by the district, The district also has the right to accept the bid if the variance is inconsequential and doesn't affect the amount of the bid or provide an unfair advantage. Terry Toe of AALRR has reviewed the case and is advised that moving forward with First Electric as the lowest bidder is legally defensible. And then it goes on to say different thing. I'll just read it. Should it be noted that the district rejects all bids of the project, it will delay the bidding process by several weeks, and there may be a potential for bid shopping, which is disadvantageous to the district. First Electric, I'm looking in our document here on 02, on page 85, I'm showing that RDM Electric is the apparent bid winner at $607,000 over First Electric, which was the lowest bid, $586,000. I'm a little confused because when I read the update, I get the impression that the bid is going to go to First Electric for a cost savings to our district of $21,000. So I'm wondering, why is RDM Electric on here as the apparent bid winner?
Deputy Superintendent?
First Electric is listed as the low bid.
Which page?
At page 85.
Oh, I see it there. Number 15. Okay.
They're the low bid at $586,000, and RDM Electric is the second low bid at $607,000.
Okay, so we picked both of them.
No, we're picking First Electric.
And that's because it's bold, is that it?
That's correct.
Okay. 586, is that what it said here?
We listed all the.
586, yes it is. Thank you. You've answered that question. Thank you.
Questions? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, Human Resources Memorandum of Understanding between California School Employees Association and its Ocean View Chapter 375 and Ocean View School District, Warren County. New employee orientation is in front of us tonight for action. Do we have a motion to approve? All right, we have a second by Trustee Singer. And any discussion?
Yes, please.
Trustee Westwell.
Page 87, number B, in bold, it says, except as authorized by law. What are some examples of that exception?
Superintendent, I believe that's a question for you.
Could you again tell me where you're reading?
Page 87, under number 2, employee information, subcategory B. In bold, it says, except as authorized by law. I couldn't for the life of me think of any exceptions. Perhaps you can't either. And I can appreciate that. I'm just wondering if somebody knows what some of these exceptions might be.
I'm gonna let Felix answer it,
Sure.
but I think, for example, we can't tell which sex they are.
Mr. Allen?
Right, sorry. As a matter of fact, we reviewed this with our legal counsel as well in terms of this particular memorandum of understanding. And all these items that are listed, we wanted to be sure that there isn't anything that would prevent us from agreeing to giving them that information. So the accept as authorized by law helps us as a district to not give any information if it comes up at any point that wouldn't be allowed to be given to CSEA and their organization. So we looked at all these areas that we agreed to at this time, but there could be something in the future that we wouldn't be able to give, and so that's kind of that fail-safe or safeguard for us in the event that they're trying to ask for something else in terms of information on employees.
Okay.
So, for example, not that it's against the law, but we wouldn't want to give Social Security numbers. Okay, that would be, we wouldn't want to do that because we want to protect our employees.
Understood. And so I'm concerned is the personal cellular telephone number and personal email address. Why are we collecting this personal information?
That's within the law of AB 119, and so that's why we have to give it.
Thank you. I think that answers my questions. I'll be supporting this.
Okay. Trustee Pinto?
So this would be in accordance with AB 119, new employee orientation.
That's correct.
And so when we look at these pieces of information that are given to the employee organization, it's because employee organizations or unions are not supposed to be using work emails and phone numbers to communicate with their members, as you know. So we have to collect the information that is private information so that the employee association can communicate with members. That's the rationale.
Okay, let's move to the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. That brings us to P, any other public communications to the Board of Trustees? Clerk Clayton Carvin?
We have two this evening. We have a Kim Sorgente. Kim Sorgente. He is not here. Next, James Ball.
Point of order. I looked at the blue card. There's nothing on here that says the speaker cannot address a board member. So at a minimum, you need, this is a 6-point type. At a minimum, if that is a rule, it needs to be on here. Secondly, on the math, since I can't address a board member, one of you was kind enough to give me a handout a few minutes ago, and I'm glad to see at least one of you is thinking about what needs to be done on the horrible scores for English learners in math. I mean, 2 years in a row, 10% for 6th graders, that's not acceptable. As some of you know, I serve on an advisory board for the Simulate Academy. This is an Orange County chartered high school for STEM, and it's on Fairview Boulevard. Last I looked, it's 83% Hispanic, 40% foster, and a smattering of other disadvantaged students. This last year, they got a gold ribbon award. It should be metal. They got a gold ribbon award. The only one in Orange County. You can look that up. If you go out to the Simulate Academy site, you can download their 16-17 annual report. I'm on page 14. We have struggled. K-8s in Orange County are all doing, I think, a horrible job in teaching just the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic, math, and English. I know music is important, art's important, but if you don't have those skills, you're not going to get a good job. You're probably not even going to get into a good college. What the Simulate Academy has done is remarkable. In my mind, a number of the teachers there are almost of the caliber of Jaime Escalante. And I felt too. I volunteer over there. Susan Simulate volunteers. She and her husband are worth $3.2 billion. He owns the Ducks. And they spend a lot of their time working with those communities. To me, it's abominable when I see the kind of results you've done, and even after a year, they haven't improved that much. So what you need to do is you need to actually put that up front. That's something really important to do. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I have a question for the
Oh,
Mr. President.
Mr. Bell, you can return to the mic. I have a question for you.
So our writing program is exemplary in the county, and I would hold up to anything Saulians does in the PE program as well. The math, I don't know. So if you would share with us, not now, but in the future, in writing or any other context, things that you know of that help instruct math to students, especially ELL students, I would appreciate seeing that.
If I can add one more comment.
Especially with the inane, idiotic Common Core approach to math and the other things we have
Well,
to deal with.
that's horrible. But the other thing I should tell you is that I've been on the accreditation review board for USC. They added a new department of engineering, and we had to review curriculum and all of that stuff. Even they had a problem with their math. And my recommendation was added to that curriculum for that new department. I'm an expert in math. My son used to tutor in high school, and mainly I had to help train him. public school math now is horrible. The one thing that I would say is,
So we're over time, but we're in an agenda.
sorry, talk to me offline.
All right, that brings us to our Board of Trustees roundtable. Q, future agenda items as requested by board members. Thank you. Trustee Westphal?
I'd like to have future discussion on ethics on our board. I'd like future discussion on how this district plans on addressing our poor test scores. As one of our speakers, Mr. Wall, was just discussing. I'd like future discussion agendized for better use of technology in educating our children. I'd like to have future discussion on our armed monitor that we have here. Not really a guard, he's a monitor. As I notice when we need to clear this room, we actually don't use the services that we're paying for. We call our police department.
You're hearing the discussion. If you just want to have if you want to suggest things to be discussed, that's great.
And surely that's what I'm doing. Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like future discussion on that this board can discuss declining enrollment. I'd like to have future discussion on our deficit. I'd like to have future discussion on how this board can encourage certain trustees to refrain from making allegedly false public statements. And I'd like to have discussion on strategies to get the focus of this district back to educating the children. In order to attract and retain quality board members, I'd like to have discussion on increasing the stipend that we receive, because I don't think we've had an increase in over 10 years. And I think that will do it. Thank you.
Any other future agenda items? Trustee Singer? Okay. We're at the Board of Trustees roundtable. Trustee Westphal, want to start us off?
Sure. Earlier in our discussions, I mentioned that Clerk Tarvin still has on her personal website at ginaclaytontarvin.com. She has on here, she's still the board president, and she lied, in my opinion, just a bit ago and said that that is not accurate, and I've got the evidence right here. You can go to the website right now and take a look for yourself on the past president's message to OVSD families. The first line reads, "In my role as mother, teacher, and board president, I'm always ... So that's one occasion. And another occasion in, this is the contact page, I believe. The last paragraph, it says, "As your president." And then in the contact page, it also says, "Contact me, your board president." So I didn't go through the whole thing, but I was advised of this, and I quickly ran through there. I found 3 occasions where Clerk Tarvin is either assuming or still believes that she's the president. So I would encourage us to follow the board bylaws and not be the spokesman and not act like the spokesman and remove this from the page, because it's very confusing to the public and it's deceiving. And especially when someone brings it up in the public like this, to have it publicly lying and say it's not there is just very disturbing. But there may be a good reason for it. Let's see here. This district is having continuous problems of not following the bylaws, Robert's Rules of Order, and Brown Act violations. I really encourage us to get educated as a board. I know we've gone to governance classes. Perhaps some of the board members should do that again. We should be following our bylaws and regulations and laws. It's what we're tasked to do. It's in our bylaws. It's required of us to operate within the bylaws and within Robert's Rules of Order. And when we don't, it shows the public that we're lawless. We don't care about rules. We make it up as we go along. And it's really caused a lot of contention in our community. People are really upset, as you notice. It's not getting any better, in my opinion, if we don't correct this lawlessness that seems to be abundant here recently. we can expect the problems to continue. So I hope we can correct this. I'd just like to bring it to the public's attention. The last thing I'd like to bring up to the attention is I've sworn, as the rest of us have, to, we've sworn to protect against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And in my opinion, we are on domestic attack right now by progressive liberals. We're out here to destroy our
All right, sir,
district.
your time's up.
Thank you,
We're gonna move
Mr.
on to-
President.
You're welcome. We're going to move on to Trustee Clayton Tarvin.
I'd like to thank my colleague for bringing up the fact that my past president's message is called past president's message. Not current president's message, but past president's message, because I am the past president. I served for 3 years, and so that puts me in the past as the president. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so we were talking earlier about how great the school district is, and I want to just, again, talk about the fact that, did you know that we just won a really high distinction in the state of California? We are a Model SARB district, a Model SARB award winner. In March, the Ocean View School District was notified that the state has recognized the school district's School Attendance Review Board, or SARB, as a state model. Do you know we were the only school district in northwest Orange County to get that? There were 2 others in Orange County. There was Orange and there was Anaheim. And so we are exceptional in many ways. And, I'm very proud of this school district. I want to talk about, to close, something that's rather disturbing to me. And I want all community members and employees to please pay special attention. I'm going to read to you now an email from a Norm Westwell sent on this Monday to Carol Hansen, she's our superintendent, and CC to Cindy Lee. And it says, your text communication. Superintendent Hansen, I received today another text from you indicating you want me to call you to receive an update. As I repeatedly told you, that's in screaming capitals, the best way to communicate with me is by email. I don't understand why this is so difficult for you to comprehend. If you have something to communicate with me, please do so by email. What part of this don't you understand? I'm deeply concerned with your communication skills. Perhaps a class or 2 would be in order. Please inform me at once if you're unwilling to communicate by email as I have requested. I think this is highly inappropriate, especially since our superintendent won Superintendents of the Year award, Superintendents to Watch from the National School Public Relations for effective communication. Our superintendent, I'm very proud of her. She communicates very effectively. And lastly, another email from Trustee Westwell to Trustee Souders. And lastly, Superintendent Hansen and Trustee Tarvin, please do not attempt to get a restraining order against me because you irrationally feel threatened. I assure you that I have not, nor do I intend to ever threaten you or cause you harm. So please don't get your panties in a bunch and again attempt to abuse or use our victim protection laws as weapons instead of the shield as they are intended and demonstrated as high propensity to do in order to smear and intimidate persons with views that you do not agree with, in my opinion. I don't agree with this.
Comment time is up. Trustee Singer? All that?
Tough to follow such craziness. I'm so short. I would also want to encourage our board, we keep, and our trustees keep saying we all need to be ethical. We all need to be ethical. We all need to stop pointing fingers. We need to remain focused on kids. That is why we are here. We're not here for special attention, for grandstanding. We are here for kids. Stop pointing fingers. This is ridiculous. I feel like if we all took the time to read our agendas ahead of time, called and asked all the questions that we need ahead of time, we could do business in a better way. We waste so much time by trying to figure out where we are. I take the time to read my agenda. I call and say, I don't understand this. Please explain it to me. So that when I get here, I can be educated. I don't have 20 million questions. Not because I don't care or I don't understand, because I took the time to call and say, can you please explain this and break it down so I can understand and make a wise decision so that I can represent the community correctly. I want to be educated in the process. I don't want to waste anyone's time doing that here. So when I come here, I am prepared. I took the time, I read the updates, I called, I made the questions that I needed to. Again, some people think that it's because I don't know what I'm doing that I don't ask questions. No, it's because I asked the questions ahead of time, because I educated myself before I got here. So it would be greatly appreciated if we could all do our homework and ask the questions ahead of time so that we could be prepared to do business efficiently and correctly without pointing fingers and trying to make each other look just stupid. Ugh.
Thank you. Trustee Briscoe?
When Bush 1 and Bush 2 are referred to, they're referred to as Mr. President. When Mr. Schwarzenegger is referred to, he's the governor and the Terminator. So it could be a board policy, if Trustee Westfall would like. We have a policy that we refer to ourselves as emeritus every time we refer to our previous honorific of the elected role in the context of the board, but I don't support that. I think calling oneself president after having served for 3 years is appropriate. I don't believe anything that's been presented would suggest that Trustee Clayton Tarbin is claiming to be an active president today. So I had another clarifying question, Trustee Clerk Clayton Tarbin. That email you read from Trustee Westwell about, was that addressed to you and to Trustee Souders?
It depends on which one you're speaking of, but all of them were supposed to be shared with the board. That's what it says.
Well, because Trustee Souders' panties in a twist was a rather...
No, it was addressed, the email was written to Trustee Souders about the superintendent and I, and saying something highly inappropriate.
You know, the panties in a twist is a rather sexist and sexual innuendo, a totally inappropriate thing to say by any standard or measure. And then claiming that Trustee Souders, no, never mind. It's wrong and inappropriate on every front. But more to the point, that horrible first email that Trustee Clayton Tarbin read, that was at the boss talking to his employee. Would anybody in this room or anybody on the live streaming cam want their boss to talk to them that way? What is it you don't understand? Do I have to repeat myself in capital screaming letters? Go take a course and learn how to do your job better. These things are things that are gross management missteps. And I don't know what Trustee Westfall does for a living these days, but if it's managing people, you're not going to keep and retain people with that. It's a shameful and inappropriate way to direct any conversation to our employee, Superintendent Hanson. Besides disrespectful, it's wrong on every front and count. And I'd like that email to be widespread, dear streaming camera audience, however many you are. I'd like it to be widespread. I will personally make that available to anybody that would like to share it in the community to understand how one of our board members talks to their employees. Their employee, Dr. Hanson. It's shameful and it's embarrassing to me, but it's what Trustee Westfall's all about. That concludes my remarks.
Thanks, sir. I'll keep it brief because I promised to get you guys out of here and I'm a little bit over my time, I think. I will remind you that the first future agenda item suggested by Trustee Westwell was ethics, the conversation about ethics. The rest of them, test technology, declining enrollment, these are all things that we discuss on a regular basis already. Deficit spending, all of these things are discussed on a regular basis. You have a saying? My friends and I, one finger out, 1,000 pointing back at you. Some of us have a full-time job just taking care of ourselves, and we should remind ourselves of that. On the positive side, I wanted to mention some more things about our district that I think is doing a really good job at. I would be remiss to mention CSEA and the hard work of classified employees. I see them sitting at the back of the room, sticking it out. Thank you for all of your hard work, and you keep our schools clean, and you are keeping us well running, and you are a part of our family at every school, and I appreciate all the hard work you do, and you are not to be forgotten, so thank you. I attended the distinguished schools. You'll see some of us wearing these pins, perhaps all of us wearing these pins, most of us wearing these pins. It was a distinguished school award that we went to at the Disneyland Hotel. They put out a really nice spread there. It is remarkable in the sense that we are in the first round of, this is right after the first round of official testing, and we already have 2 distinct schools in a state where only 267 were recognized out of the 6,000 schools. That is remarkable in the first round of testing. That means that in this first round of testing, they looked at this brand new test that students had never seen before, taken on a computer in a way that they had never taken a test before, and our students won awards, our schools won awards, and those accolades belong to our teachers. And that doesn't mean we don't have more schools on the way that will be getting these awards as well. I think you can count on us in the future receiving quite a few more awards, especially if we're already in the first grouping. I'm confident we will. Finally, construction plan. I believe it was last meeting or the meeting before that, we talked a lot about having to review our construction plan. Our administrative team had found some problemed areas, some things that we needed to see. They saw those problems ahead of time, and they were able to come up with another plan that encompassed even more than we were originally going to do to begin with, and was able to keep us working and keep us running even more efficiently. These are the signs of a district that is on fire, a district that is doing great things. We have a phenomenal administrative team, we have phenomenal teachers, we have phenomenal classified staff. We are Ocean View Strong. We've been Ocean View Strong for a long time, and we're doing great. And I just want to say, and I want the employees to hear that, and I want the people at home on YouTube to hear that, we are strong, and we are doing great. And I appreciate all that the staff is doing, and we will get better. Thank you. That brings us to closed session. S, we do not need closed session. So we don't need to return to open session. And T, we are going to go to adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Hold on one second. Tonight we'll be adjourning our meeting in honor of Mr. Ross Nash, who passed away on April 26, 2018. Ross was a well-respected and involved community member in Huntington Beach and a product of the Ocean View School District, attending Springview K-8 school. He will be greatly missed. Is there a motion and a second?
I move to adjourn in honor of my fraternity brother and many, many decades friend, Ross Nash, who suffered from adult onset Tay-Sachs syndrome and persevered through 15 years when he should have been dead, and he continued living. And I was there when he died till the end. A wonderful man. Thank you for recognizing him.
I'll second in his honor.
Okay, any discussion? No discussion, move to the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned at 8:15.